For those of you who don't know our family, as Brody said, we've been at Oak Grove since our daughter Emily entered kindergarten in 2004. And Gwen and Clark, who are currently in 7th grade, they're twins, they were started at a mommy and me type toddler program when they were less than 2 years old. So our kids are lifers, as they say in the high school. And we actually followed Adrian and Darinka and Krista, as being a parent at the Ojai Community Nursery School at that time, over to Oak Grove or that's how we kind of ended up here. So our ties go back even further. And I remember Brody when he was in preschool and he was only 6 feet tall. So as I started thinking about the topic of awakening intelligence at Oak Grove, I first thought back to when we were looking at different schools for Emily to enter kindergarten. And Oak Grove's underlying philosophy of awakening the natural intelligence and curiosity and passion in children was the primary reason, or a primary reason, that we chose Oak Grove, and the primary reason that we've stayed here all these years. And when I think Emily was in 1st grade or so, I remember one of the elementary classroom doors, a teacher had written a handwritten poster that said, "Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire." And I thought that exemplified so well Oak Grove's approach to education. And this approach has served our 3 very different children so well, and I'm so grateful that they've all been allowed to blossom in their own time and in their own way as much as possible here. With our 2 youngest children, Gwen and Clark, who, as I said earlier, are twins, they've been in the exact same grade, exact same classroom, exact same teacher since they were 21 months old. So we've seen firsthand how beautifully that this learning environment has worked out for 2 very different people. And conversely, I've thought how different things might have been for them if they were in a different learning environment. As young and very young children, they had very different developmental timetables in terms of reading and mathematical concepts and physical capability, not to mention personalities. And I strongly believe that Oak Grove's nurturing, kind, and respectful focus on each child as an individual allowed them to achieve their academic potential in the best way possible. As an example, one child was a natural early reader, but they didn't have the fine motor skills to be able to hold a pencil. So that impacted their ability to write and put those thoughts on paper. And the other had great spatial awareness of mathematical principles, but the reading skills were slower to develop. I held my breath a lot during those first years of elementary school, especially concerned about the inherent competitiveness between siblings and the even more focused comparisons that are part of when those siblings are twins. But the learning environment that Oak Grove provides, and the things that come to mind, are the non-judgmental and non-competitive academic evaluations, being able to call a teacher by their first name, reading in math mini groups with peers at the same level. Even when the classroom only has 11 students, there's little mini groups, so kids are matched. And a broad education that includes music and arts and physical activity and foreign language. That learning environment allowed them to grow academically without the comparisons and self-doubt and ranking in a class that could have squelched any budding interest in learning. Breath. As opposed to the word awakening, which I think I often associate with alarm clocks or people trying to get me out of bed too early. I think more of the Oak Grove learning environment and philosophy more is like a well-prepared and lovingly tended garden bed that allows a seed to grow in its best way possible without someone pulling on its tender shoots, come on, grow faster, or making all the plants grow in the exact same way to match everything else in the garden. Seeds wake up on their own when they have the right environment, when they have everything they need, warm soil, just the right amounts of moisture and sunlight and nutrients. And sometimes even with that perfect environment, you place your seed lovingly in the ground and the root goes sideways for a while before the root grows firmly downward. Or the first new leaves that come up, the first 2 leaves, you're seeing that they'll stick together for a little bit, they'll finally separate and open to the sunlight, but they do it in their own time. And given the nurturing environment, they all end up right where they should be. And sometimes a gardener has to stake up one plant a little bit or give another one some more nutrients. And sometimes a teacher or parent has to steer a child a certain way, or a parent needs to give them a little prod. And that happens here too. There were several other thoughts that I had on the topic of awakening intelligence here when Jody asked me to start putting together this talk, that I wanted to share all of them. But this is supposed to be a 5-minute talk, and I used up my 5 minutes for the first topic. So when I was preparing this, I had to pare down so much of what I wanted to say, and it really highlighted to me how very passionately I feel about Oak Grove, and how very grateful I am that all of our children have been able to be here. Thank you for letting me share some of my passion this morning, and thank you for your contributions to this wonderful place. You are the sunshine to this garden where children are allowed to grow to their own unique potential. Thank you for what you've given already, and thank you for what you will give today.